Hello guys, I'm Yadagiri and welcome to my channel HYR Tutorials. In this video, I'll explain about default reports generated by TestNG. So this is the agenda for today's session guys. First we will see what is meant by reports and why do we need the reports in TestNG. And then does TestNG generate any reports by default? If yes, we will look at those reports also. And then in the end, do we really use the TestNG default reports? If yes, how do we use them? And if not, what are the alternatives we have? So all these points we are going to discuss inside this video guys. So before proceeding further, I want to tell you one thing guys. So some of you might be thinking like why you are teaching these basic topics. These are not useful, like that you might be thinking, right? So never ever feel like that guys. Every video is a knowledge. Every video will bring some knowledge to you. So even though if you use these knowledge in real-time projects or not, this knowledge will help you in some point, maybe in interview clearing or maybe just to understand the topics very clearly, to get the very good understanding on the course. So at any point of time, this knowledge will help you. Knowledge will never be wasted. Knowledge will always be useful. So never ever feel like these are the basic topics. Why do I need to learn these things? Never ever feel like that. So everything should be started from the basic only guys. Okay, so I'm not talking about only this topic, but in general, some people are not watching that, basic topics like the test attributes, or even in the Selenium also, like how to maximize the browser. So like those, like there are some basic topics also, which may be useful very, very much in the real time also, and which may not be useful in the real time, but may be useful in the interview point of view also. So that is why always watch all the videos in any course, in any channel. Not just my channel, in any channel, always try to watch all the videos guys. Fine. So let's get started. First, what is meant by reports and why do we need the reports? So whenever you are executing any test or tests, that means a single test or multiple tests. So whenever you are executing your test, you need to track some information, right? Like what is the status of your test execution and how much time your test is actually taking. And if the test is failed, what is the exception actually? So all this information you need to track, right? So if you're executing multiple tests, out of all those tests, how many are passed and how many are failed and how many are skipped. So these kind of informations you need to track, correct? So then only you will understand, right? Like how much is the pass percentage in your test execution. So all this information you will get only from that informations, like from that result only, correct? So you need to track this information. But whenever you are tracking this information only in the console, some issues will happen. So let me show you all those issues and then I will tell you what is the report and why do we need the report, right? So let me open the Eclipse. So here I have created one class file with 3 methods guys. Test Google, test Facebook and test Orange HRM. So these are the methods I have been using from almost all my test cases in all the previous videos, right? So test Google will just open the Google and it will enter some text and it will try to verify the browser title. And then test Facebook will try to log in with invalid username and it will try to do some assertions. And then test Orange HRM also will try to log in with invalid login credentials and it will try to verify the welcome message. So the second test and third test I'm intentionally failing by providing the wrong credentials. Only the first one will get passed. Fine. So first let's execute this and then we will see guys. So just right click on this, run as TestNG test. You can execute either as a class file or you can create the XML suite and then you can execute from there also. So anything is fine guys. So it won't take much time. Hardly it will take 15 seconds. So you can see already 2 are completed and the third one is running. So all the 3 test case execution is completed, right? So now if you want to see the execution information, like how many are passed and how many are failed, where you will go? So whenever we are working with Java or any project, the first thing that we will see is console only, correct? So first we will go to the console. So let's go to the console. And if the console is not displayed, how do you open the console? Just go to window and go to show view and then select console here. So within the console, you can see the information of your execution guys. So you can see which test is passed and which test is failed and because of what exception it is failed. and you can see the test failed, and this is the exception. And you can also see the entire stats also, like how many test cases you have actually executed, and within those how many are passed and how many are failed and how many are skipped. So all these informations you can see in this video, in this console base. So all these informations you can see in this console, correct? But this console is not displaying the time, execution time for each test. Is it displaying? No. You see, nowhere the execution time is actually mentioned, correct? Your execution time is not displayed in the console. So the console is not clearly helpful in 100%, right? So what is the alternate option that we have? So this is the normal console, right? Even when you are executing any Java program also, you will use the same console. But whenever you are working with TestNG, TestNG has provided a special console called a TestNG console. So with the TestNG console, you can see the time and these informations also. So that TestNG console will look like this, guys. So if you don't know how to open this TestNG console, just go to the window and show view, and then click on other and just type TestNG here and click on this and click on open. So this console will be opened. Okay. So here it will give you the clear information, like how many test methods you have executed, how many suits you have executed, and each test, how much time it is actually taking. So all this information it will display in this TestNG console. So this is called as TestNG console. Okay. So you can see the test Facebook is taking 1.955 seconds, and test Google is taking 1.499 seconds, and test Orange HRM is taking 5 seconds, right? And even it is doing the color coding also. So if the test is passed, it will just tick with right mark and the green color is there. And if the test is failed, it is having some kind of a black color with cross mark. And if the test is skipped, it will have the yellow color or yellow come orange color kind of thing. Okay. So that color coding is also provided here. And even in the top also, you can see passed 1, failed 2, skipped 0. Like on the overall, if you want to see the stats, so out of your execution, how many are passed and how many are failed, how many are skipped. And if the test is failed, if you click on this one, it will show you the exception details also. Because of what exception the test is failed. So you are getting almost every information, right? You can click on the summary and you can see how many methods you have executed, how much time it actually took, and what are the failed tests. So all this information you can actually, track from the console, guys, TestNG console. This is well and good, correct? So if you are able to track the information from the TestNG console, why do you need the reports then? Let me tell you. So somehow mistakenly or intentionally, you closed your console, okay? Or you might be closing your Eclipse itself. Or maybe you have executed your test today and you want to come back after 1 day or 2 days, and then you want to see the last execution details. So how do you see that information? If you shut down your system, even if you close your console also, if you reopen the console, you will not get the last execution details again, right? Once the data is lost, it is lost. You cannot get the data back, right? So even if you close the console, or if you close the Eclipse, or if you shut down your system and come back after 1 day or 2 days, or even after 1 year, you will not have the information. You will not have the last execution details in your console. Then how do I see that information? It's not like always I will be sitting in front of the system only, right? So due to some issue, maybe my charging is completed in my laptop, or due to some issue, your system may be closed, or your system may be turned off, or you might be closing your Eclipse. So in those scenarios, if you want to track the information, if you want to see the last execution information, how do you see? So today I have only 3 test cases. If I want to see, I can again execute. But if I have 1000 test cases, for executing those 1000 test cases, again, it will take 1 day of time. But after 1 day, again, if I am not sitting in front of the system, again, I need to execute, right? So that is why we need to have a mechanism to store this execution information, right? So whenever you execute any test, we need to store the execution details so that whenever we come back, even if you close the Eclipse or if you close the console, and even if you come back after 1 year also, you should be able to see the last execution details. So for that, we are introducing the reports, guys. So report is a file which will actually store this kind of information. Fine. Like the last execution details, it will store the execution details into one file, and that file will be saved in your operating system. So even if you shut down your system also, the file will not be erased. The file will not be deleted. Even if you come back after 5 years also, the file will still be there, considering your system is in an operable condition, guys. Okay. So whenever you come back, your file will always be there. So you can see the last execution details from there, right? So how do we generate that file? What is that file extension? And all these informations I will tell you. So basically you can generate any kind of report, guys. That means the HTML report you can generate, XML report you can generate the document report, you can generate the Excel report, any kind of report you can generate based on your requirement basically. So you need to generate the reports so that you can save the execution details. You can see those execution details also. Fine. So that is the sole purpose of the reports, and also to send the information to any other people. Like maybe your management needs the execution details of your test, right? So how do you send this information? If you are closing your Eclipse or something, right? How do you send this information? So for that also, you need to have the execution details, right? So that is why we need to have a mechanism where we can store the execution details in our system, and it should be present until and unless we intentionally delete that information. So that is called as a report, right? Report is a file. Fine. So now we understood like what is a report and why do we need the reports in TestNG. So a report is a file, and we need the reports because whenever you close the Eclipse or something, we are going to lose the last execution details information. So to keep that information, we need to have the reports. Fine. And next, does TestNG generate any reports by default? So if you look at this class, nowhere I have mentioned the statement like please generate the reports or something like that, right? Nowhere I have written the code to generate the reports, and I have executed only this class, right? So in those scenarios, will TestNG generate any report? And do I need to specify anything for TestNG to generate the reports? You no need to specify anything in TestNG, guys. By default, TestNG will generate the report. Even though if you specify or if you don't specify, TestNG will always generate the report for your execution. So that is the TestNG default behavior. Even though if you are not specifying anywhere. So if you see in this class, I have nowhere specified anything to generate the report, right? But internally, TestNG will generate the report. And where do I see that report information? Let me show you that. So every report will be generated within the project itself, guys. By default, TestNG will consider your project location as the report location. So the reports will be generated within the project itself. So first open the project location. So this is my project location. And here if you see, there is a folder called test-output, right? So this folder I haven't actually created. I did not create this folder, guys. TestNG created this folder by default. Okay. So this is the test report folder basically, which is created by the TestNG. So if you open this, there will be so many files. So within this, there will be two files called emailable report and index.html. So these are the HTML files. These are basically the report files that are generated by the TestNG, guys. So if you want to see the TestNG report, you need to open any of these two files. So there is a small difference between these two files. I will tell you that. Okay. So first let's open the index.html. And so this is how your TestNG report will look like, guys. So if you have watched any previous videos from any YouTube other channel, right? You might be seeing the different UI for the report, right? So that is because we have an option here. If you click on the switch to retro theme. So this is the UI you might have already seen, right? In any other video or any other article. So this is the UI they were using actually. But in latest version of TestNG, they have improved the report UI. It's not actually so much improved. It's just the color code change, nothing else. So if you just click on the switch ultra, you can see it's just the color code change, guys. Nothing big changes. Okay. So this is the report file that is generated by TestNG automatically. That means by default. So it will give you the entire information like how many test cases you have actually executed and how many are passed and how many are failed. and which is the failed one and what is the exception for that failed one. So all those informations it will give you. You can see 3 methods you have executed and 2 failed and 1 is passed, right? So what are the failed methods? Test Facebook is failed and test orange HRM is also failed. So whenever you click on this, it will show you the stack trace also. That means the exception information also it will show you. Because of what exception it is actually failed. So it is unable to locate the element, that is why this is failed. And this is also, it is unable to locate the element, that is why it is failed, right? So the exception details also it will show you. And if you want to see the past test methods, you need to click on this show. By default, it will not be collapsed. You need to click on the show button here and you can see test Google is passed. And you can also see the timing also. If you click on the times option here, you can see the timing also. For each method, how much time is actually taken. And on overall also, how much time is actually taken. This entire information is provided to you guys. Even if you come back after 1 day or after 1 year, after 5 years also, this information will not be lost. Fine. So the entire information is provided, and in the starting it is mentioning something like XML file, right? So this is the XML file that we actually executed. But you might be wondering, we did not execute any XML file, right? By default, TestNG will not execute any class file directly. Whenever you execute any class file also, internally it will try to create one XML file. You are not creating the XML file, but TestNG will create one XML file for you, and then it will execute that XML file. It will not actually execute this one. It will create the XML file and then it will forget about this class and it will start executing that XML file only. So where it actually created that XML file, you can see the location also, guys. So just copy that and open here. So this is the XML file actually, okay? So by default, TestNG has created this suit file and it is executing. So for this suit file, you have only one test. So even if you open here, you can see there is only one test and the test name is default test. So that is why if you open this test, it says default test, and default suit is because the suit name is default suit here. But if you create any XML file internally and if you execute, those details will be reflected here perfectly, guys. So your entire execution details will be displayed within your report file. So first it will display you which XML file you have executed, and within that XML file, how many test cases you have and how many groups you have and how much is the time that is taken. And if you are logging any information, that information also will come here. And if you are ignoring any method, that methods also will come here. And if you want to see the chronological order, like how it is actually executing, before method, before all those things, you can see here. Okay. So this is the entire information, guys. Fine. And next we have one more report also, right? So let's see that report also. That is emailable report. If you open this, so this is the report which will give you high level information, like how many methods you are actually executing and how much is the time it is taking. So if you look at this one, right, you have a high level information clearly. Even that report also has the same information, but this is having the high level. When you look at the report, immediately you can understand everything, right? So these are the methods that are failed and this is the method that is passed, everything you can understand. So this is called as emailable report. That means if you want to send your report to any other person, you can just attach this HTML file and you can send them. So that is why this is called as emailable report, and it will not have any dependency also. That means it will not have any dependency of other files. So the same information, guys, even here also you will have the same information. 1 passed, 0 skipped, 0 retried and 2 failed, and this is the time taken. And which is failed means test Facebook and test orange HRM is failed, test Google is passed, and the exception information is also displayed here. If you click on this, it will display you the exception information here. So these are the 2 files that are actually generated. And also there is one more thing, that is JUnit reports. By default, TestNG will generate the JUnit reports also. It is in the form of XML, guys. You can open in any XML editor or you can open in the browser also. So this is the report that is generated from the JUnit point of view. Fine. So these are the reports that are generated by the TestNG, guys. So now if I delete this file, this folder entirely, so now I don't have the folder, right? So even if I execute again, that folder will be generated, guys. So let me go back to the project location. So once the execution is completed, the folder will be generated. Okay. And you can see test output folder is generated. We are not generating this folder. TestNG is by default generating this folder for you. So that you need to remember, guys. So these are the reports that are generated by TestNG by default. So now we covered first and second and third point also. We have seen the default TestNG reports also, right? The emailable report I have shown you, and the normal report also we have seen. The normal report is nothing but index.html, and emailable report, it has the name emailable report only. This one, okay? And then do we really use the TestNG default reports? To be frankly saying, guys, in real time, we will not use these TestNG default reports because these are actually not looking so good, right? Your management will expect very beautiful UI, okay? Very beautiful UI in the reports, and they will expect more features like filtering and searching and screenshots attachment and log attachments and so many things they will expect. So all those things are not actually available in the TestNG default generated reports. So that is why we are not going to really use these TestNG default reports. Okay, 99.9999% we will not use this one. Only in the 0.00001% maybe we will use this. Fine. So if you are not using this one, then what are the alternatives that we have? So we have some libraries called extend reports and allure reports. So they are very beautiful reports, guys. Okay. They have so many features. And those are very beautiful reports. So we are going to use those reports only in our real-time execution. So in our real-time scenarios, we will not use the TestNG default reports. Even though if you don't want to use, TestNG will generate by default and it will keep in the project folder. Either you use it or not, that's up to you. But TestNG will by default generate those reports. But we will not use those reports. We will use either extend reports or allure reports. And apart from these reports, third-party reports also, you can generate your own report also. Okay. So you can create your own HTML syntax and you can generate your own report also. So it's not like we need to use either the default reports or third party. You can generate your own report also, guys. So anything you can actually use. So in our upcoming videos, we will see how to use the extend reports, and if the time permits, we will also see how to use the allure reports also. So in this video, I'm not going to cover them, but I will make separate videos because that is a very big topic, guys. Either the extend reports or allure reports, we need to understand a lot of things in those things because it will not be by default generated one, right? It's a third party library and you need to know how to set that and you need to know how to generate that. So all those things you need to understand. So that is why it will be a very big video. So I will create that video maybe in future, not in future, just maybe after 2 or 3 days. Fine. So let me summarize one more time. So what is meant by reports and why do we need the reports? So report is a file which will store the execution details of your test execution. And then why do we need that one? Because whenever we close our Eclipse or whenever we close the console or whenever we shut down our system, we will lose the last execution details. So to keep a track, we need to use the reports. Okay. And then does TestNG generate any reports by default? Yes, it will generate. Even though if you don't specify anything, TestNG by default will generate some reports for you. So it will generate the HTML reports and also the XML based reports. And we have seen how those reports also will look like, right? And then do we really use the default reports? No, we will not use them. We are going to use the extend reports or allure reports in the real-time scenarios, guys. Fine. So this is the topic, guys. So I hope you enjoy this topic. If you have any doubts or if you are facing any issues while generating these reports or something, please let me know in the comment section below. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.